Hello and welcome to another Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 3, Episode 18.
Or Episode 64 if you're counting.
And we got a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about this week. I'm actually really excited. This looks to be pretty good material. I'm not gonna lie, I think we can actually go on, perhaps even longer than the show actually is, which is why Q&A session afterward is a good idea for those of you who are here live. If you're not here live, you're on YouTube.
Right, so to our YouTube audience, welcome back. Whatever time you're viewing this.
Although you should be getting out here to us on Thursday evenings at 9 p.m. Central Time so that we can hang out with you personally and do Q&A sessions between the both of us. And it'll be great fun and stuff. And let us know if there's any issues with the way the video's broadcasting right now. I'm testing different settings and stuff. Although, again, from last time, we're still here live on Hitbox.tv.
No Twitch this week.
No Twitch this week, and it's not looking very likely that I'll go back, because this has been immensely smooth. You can hear some clicking. It's probably Josh clicking around and rolling the wheel. This microphone picks up quite a bit.
Yeah, admittedly, this mouse is a bit noisy.
Yeah, so that is most likely what you're hearing, because, again, this microphone's amazing, but it's almost too amazing, perhaps. I want to also thank our patrons over at patreon.com/MarsGirl. No new Patreons at the $10 or above level, but all the same guys from the previous week are still here and have still been supporting us, and to you guys, I really want to thank you so much for continuing to make this possible. In fact, I'm going to have to...
You've got something to show for it now.
I'm going to have to update my goals and my, my goals as we surpass different supporter amounts. This was one of them, and I decided I couldn't wait on it any longer, and I had to dig into my own pockets to go toward it. But this is my new Sony SLT, very similar to a DSLR, but this is a DSLT. The only difference is the mirror inside. It's an Alpha 58. Got really high recommendations, especially for video projects. So I'm really looking forward to playing with it, learning it, and figuring it out. So excited that I have it. It came with all sorts of bells and whistles.
You should have seen how excited she was to run in the house and see this package waiting for her. You couldn't wait to open that thing.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. So the next thing on the list is going to be a shotgun microphone for this sucker, and really looking forward to seeing...
implementing that very soon.
Yeah, so all future videos that are not part 2 of our Guyver review will be filmed on this camera from this point on until I'm super rich and I can afford, like Hollywood cameras, which I will never be able to afford. So other than that, what else is going on?
Well,
you had a birthday.
I did have a birthday last week.
And you got lots of stuff for your birthday.
I was surprised at the amount of Nerf that I was able to get last week. just like, granted, I like Nerf stuff just as much as you do or the next person watching, but I happened to bring some stuff with me for tonight's show. Right here, the Nerf Double Strike that you actually got me.
Yeah.
You liked it so much you ended up getting one for yourself.
I sure
did. This thing is like the Jolt, but the next level, because it's got hammer action, and this thing packs a punch. Very happy with this one.
Well, now that you've cocked it, you have to shoot it. Ow!
There you go.
Oh, no.
Did I get you in the arm?
No, you did not.
I'm sorry.
And we're not going to talk about what
All
you
right,
actually
we'll talk about it. And then I also got Star-Lord's Quad Blaster.
2 of them, in fact.
Yes, 2 of them, in fact. Some friends of ours are very generous to get those for me. They actually shoot rather well. Then, for myself, I got the Nerf Slingfire. I had been waiting, when the fall line had been announced back at Toy Fair, this was my number 1. With lever action. That
lever action is so cool, because you can just sling it forward, and it'll tilt all the way facing down, and then throw it back into your hand.
Yes.
It's an amazing feeling.
And then the biggest one the Demolisher. Which I've, taken the liberty of taking all the darts out, but this thing is quite hefty. Including the large missile dart that you get up front.
One foomp, and this missile just goes flying.
And you managed to... Because I have this habit whenever I get a new gun. I always want to know what it's like to be hit with my own weapon. So what ends up happening is usually I have you shoot me with it. And the unfortunate part about it, that missile is very large, about yay big, about the size of my fist. When you shot it, you didn't quite understand how much force this was going to have.
Well, that, and I thought that aiming straight meant it was going to go straight, and it did not.
No, because I told you to aim for my stomach.
I did aim for your stomach, but it had an upward curve.
Yeah, so she ended up getting me in the collarbone, which actually hurt quite a bit, because this thing packs up punch.
I was scared. He was like, oh, and his eyes were closed, and he was kind of buckling over. I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know, it was an accident, but like they say that's one of the worst places to get shot, next to your knee. So, yeah, that definitely was more oomph than expected.
So, you were saying before the show, last time we turned on the air conditioning and nobody noticed. I think that's part of what people are hearing right now is background noise.
That's what it is.
So I guess we can't do the show with air conditioning on and have good audio.
Alright, fair enough. We'll remember that for next time.
Alright.
And of course our friend out here in the audience, Zappa, got me a little Godzilla minifigure, which is now proudly displayed on my shelf currently in between Batman and Go-Kaio. So that was a
birthday!
Nice
yeah,
birthday.
I baked a cake inside the rice cooker, which was my first experiment
that
doing
thing came out
thing.
Amazing.
I couldn't even believe it. It was the simplest thing to do. Like, that's a nerdy thing, right? Like, I'm gonna bake in a rice cooker. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but apparently people did it. And so I was like, well, I'm seeing other people reporting that you can do it. I guess I'll try it too. And then it was so amazing. So freaking good.
But that having been said, we should probably get to the show.
We do have some other topics that we want to discuss. What's the order of our topics this time? Our first story... Yeah, as everyone by now clearly has heard, we have lost this week very famous actor and comedian Robin Williams. And rather than lingering on having lost him, we want to talk about, what that means to our community as a whole, to anyone within any industry, and then how it relates to us as nerds and as gamers, because I think that actually is quite important.
Yes. Our second story tonight is a rather surprise announcement from just the other day that there is a dream team-up with director Guillermo del Toro and famed video game producer Hideo Kojima on the new installment of Silent Hill.
Silent Hills.
Hills, plural. And we're going to be talking to you guys more about that.
More than one hill.
At least two.
At least two hills. And finally... So there was apparently a Minecraft convention that was supposed to take place in where? New York?
Yes, in New York.
And then suddenly, less than a week before the start of the convention, it just up and disappeared off the map. And considering many of us here have worked in cons, are con goers, and then following the disaster that was DashCon, we thought this would be a really interesting discussion about how do you approach a con that takes all this money and then just drops off the map.
Yeah.
Very, very bizarre story.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to have a few words as far as that goes.
But there are some other follow-up stories to other things that we have discussed before in the past, which we will now discuss in minor detail.
Yes, except for this first one, which will be in a little bit more detail. As some of you have seen, there was a bit of a poll here regarding the movie that we saw immediately after last week's show.
Yeah, there were 29 or 30 votes. Only 3 of you guys said that you did not want us to spoil Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
11 of you were indifferent, and then...
And 16 of you were like, spoil away, whatever. So the indifferent and the spoil away kind of said that we should do it. We can talk briefly about Ninja Turtles
we won't.
Anyway.
It's not going to take up the whole show because we got a full show here.
In which case, perhaps we won't spoil all that much, but we do just want to...
Base verdict. No, it is not as bad as we were worried about.
But also, no, it is not a good movie.
Right. there's a lot of things that are very odd about this movie. I had this conversation with my brother who also went to go see it.
Oh, did he? You didn't tell me that.
No, and we both agreed on this. The story is all right for a Hollywood blockbuster, so long as you have no idea what the Ninja Turtles are.
I mean...
And the funny thing about the way we put it, and I asked him about this, and he says, you know what, you're right. The story is, and some of you might be familiar with this phrasing, very tsundere in the way it likes to play around with the mythology. Like, see, we remember that, you know, their colors are red and blue and orange and purple and, you know, Splinter and Shredder. But it's not like we read the story or anything, we're gonna get this wrong. Like, it plays with that back and forth, and it's very odd how that works.
Well, I thought it was good. The Turtles' interactions with each other was like, okay, you got that. I can't argue with that. I can, however, argue with everybody else's relationship to everybody else.
Yes.
I don't really like that in the end it turns out that April O'Neil is basically family, and yet Michelangelo doesn't stop hitting on her quite sexually constantly throughout the course of the movie. So uncomfortable.
It's
so freaking uncomfortable.
It's not much of a spoiler because they put this out there as soon as they possibly can in the movie. Michelangelo's got a bit of a boner the whole movie, a turtle boner for April O'Neil.
That's almost literal in the phrase that he utters about feeling his shell shrinking.
Yeah, like, really?
Like
okay,
is that really necessary? Then there's... I really hated the relationship between Splinter and Shredder.
What relationship?
Because there was no relationship. For some reason, they knew who one another was, but there's no basis for that, really. And so it's like, yeah, they're fighting because they're supposed to fight. But why are they fighting?
As far as the movie is concerned, they don't actually have a relationship if you're paying attention to the lines being said. The two have never actually met until their fight happens.
Right.
Which is very off-putting. Aside from that, yes, it's made enough movie to warrant a sequel being greenlit.
It's made enough movie?
Made enough money.
Well, they've made plenty of movie. Really, they should stop making movies.
Yes.
Stop making movies.
And really, the one character that came out on top probably was Raphael. And
he had the best character development out of any of the Turtles.
But that's the thing, he had the best character development because they squeezed it in right before the end of the movie.
Well, I felt like Leonardo got next to none. It's like, they put him as, yeah, I'm the leader, and then what personality?
Yeah, like that's actually something I can give to TMNT. They gave Leonardo more personality and stuff to do there than this movie
And
did.
I hated that CG.
Oh, no, that one...
Tamunita. No, I couldn't stand Tamunita.
Well, see, I can compliment the new Ninja Turtles in that we could at least get through the prologue without cringing.
Yeah, because I almost walked out of the theater within the first 30 seconds of Tamunita.
Yeah.
Like that was awful. So, I'll say this much. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this most recent movie, is better than Tamunita, perhaps Ninja Turtles 3.
No, I'm pretty sure
perhaps,
that's a definite.
And definitely better than the Next Mutation.
Anything's better than the Next Mutation.
But yeah, see, like, this is... Well, see, like, that was hard.
Well, see, that's the thing. Raphael looks like he's from the Next Mutation.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, you know, how far does that go?
And I think the last thing I want to say during show about this is, I know this seems really tiny and really stupid, and, like, there's really no reason for me to bring it up, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we get the first shot of Splinter down in the Turtles' lair in the sewers, right?
Yeah.
And it's this really fast zoom-in shot from far away, and then it zooms in on Splinter, and he's standing in front of a wall of, like, hundreds upon hundreds of boomboxes. And I'm sitting here going, hey, that's cool, you got a wall of boomboxes. Are you gonna, like, use them? Like, what do you need hundreds and hundreds of boomboxes for? They never turned on one radio. Not one radio. I guess they have TV. I mean, I'm just kind of having to guess, because the only TV I saw them watch was, like, through the rain grate.
In the flashback sequence, they use a mirror to look at a TV
at a
inside of a storefront
TV. Yeah. And so I'm sitting here wondering, what do 4 turtles and a rat need with hundreds of radios? That really bothered me. I know
there
that
are other things
stupid.
more bothersome, like, oh, I don't know, Splinter teaching the turtles ninjutsu from a book because he never actually knew it to begin with.
Yeah,
but
nobody masters ninjutsu from a book. You have to have somebody to spar with. You have to have somebody actually teach you. You can learn poses.
Yeah,
that doesn't
that's
mean you're
about
going to learn ninjutsu. But I mean, granted, you're also having to believe that 4 turtles and a rat morphed into people, humanoid-like creatures,
yes,
and then learned ninjutsu to begin with. So, I mean, I could give that a pass, but it is still pretty ludicrous.
Long story short, take that as you will. It's not so bad. If you want to see it, that's fine. I just wouldn't recommend it.
No, I really kind of will never watch it again.
Yeah,
so, and that's that. So we can move on to let's kind of rapid fire.
Okay,
these.
so actual
actual follow-ups to actual things.
So of course we've talked about Godzilla before, and we talked about the footage that was shown over at San Diego Comic-Con confirming that there were sequels in the works. Well, now we know the date for the first sequel will be June 8th, 2018.
That's really far away.
Yeah, it's kind of far away. Now, hopefully, this gives them enough time to give us some really good fights. I hope you're listening, Gareth Edwards. We'd like the fights earlier in the movie and longer. If you can bother to do that, you've already killed off Bryan Cranston. Just go ahead and give us what we want now.
Uh-huh.
So that's
because,
that.
I mean, like, he's got a lot to live up to, considering now we have actual monsters that we really have wanted to see this whole time.
Exactly.
Build for this movie.
Right, so that's that date that's been confirmed. Additionally, just 2 years from now, on July 22nd...
A little less than 2 years from now.
They've confirmed that will be the day that the Power Rangers movie reboot will hit theaters. Now, granted, that's, what, a year and a half change, something like that? Technically,
more than a year and a half.
That's enough time to get a movie off the ground. That's fine. And they've got, like we said before, they've got capable people working on this. I'm still just a little worried. There's kind of that apprehension that comes with it, like, oh, they really mean it. They're actually going through with this.
Yeah, that really solidifies it, and that means that it's not just sitting around in development hell.
Right. So we'll see more on that as that develops. Additionally, this is only a brief talk about it. Like we said, once we get the full press conference, we'll talk to you guys more about it. But we've got our first look at what the next Kamen Rider Drive looks like.
Yeah, go ahead and give them.
Yeah, I'm going to link you guys in the chat here to see what he looks like.
You did not copy it, by the way. You pasted your last thing into that window.
No, I got this.
You have to refresh.
No, I got it. So, basically, the design is very much like what pictures had been made out to look like. He's primarily black with red accents. He appears to have some sort of tire.
Oh, hey, this is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that helps out.
The chat just allows you to just drop a freaking picture in there and not just the link to it. Man, I love you, Hitbox.
Wow,
hey,
okay, this is going to make
awesome.
things a lot easier. So, yes, as you guys can see here, that's Drive right there. Not so bad.
He could be worse. You know what? To me, he looks more like a Go-Buster.
That's what some people have been saying. He looks like one of the Go-Busters, or even Enter's dark version of what the Go-Busters look like.
I'm not really feeling the tire around his chest, but I'll probably live.
Yeah, we'll get around that. But for now, yes, that's the first picture we've got of him. It could be worse. Again, we'll need to see him in action in a actual press conference once we confirm the story and things like that later on down the road.
Right.
And of course, to wrap up our follow-up section, what is our show without talking about Not Quite Justice League?
Not Quite Justice League!
So we've got a little bit more news here to give you guys just briefly. First off, we have confirmed on-set pictures of what Ben Affleck now looks like as Bruce Wayne. You'll see here in the picture that I'm now putting into the chat.
I love this.
What we're seeing here now is a Bruce Wayne who very much looks a little more aged.
That picture did not work for me. Oh, well, it worked for you.
He's got a little bit of a salt and pepper hair color here, which goes into the whole thing of he's somewhere in his late 40s, early 50s as far as the movie is concerned.
That's not 50s, if you ask me.
That's what they're trying to say. I imagine they're skewing it closer to the 40s to Ben Affleck's actual age. So...
yeah, share this other picture, because this picture is not working for most people.
Yeah, here we go.
That's better.
And here's another one.
Well, this one didn't work either. So, oh well.
Well, anyway, if you guys click on the picture, it should be able to load there.
It's not. There we go. Kind of.
But yes, there we have Bruce Wayne. Now, the other piece of news that we have is actually very disputable, which is that there are numerous sites trying to confirm one way or the other what we've been hearing for a couple of months now, that Jason Momoa of Game of Thrones fame has officially signed on as Aquaman. Now, I'd like to go on record as saying that has not been fully confirmed yet. They're saying, oh, it's as good as done, and a lot of stories have been made out.
Done.
No, that does not mean done. There is no ink on paper. There's been no official story other than what has been said back in June. So signs do point to, yes, he is more or less going to be in this role. Just don't quite listen to anybody until you officially hear it from a source like Variety anytime after now. Mm-hmm. Because up until now, it's just temporary until we've got that confirmation that we need.
Alright, anything else then?
No, that was pretty much everything.
Okay, so we do want to move on to our main major stories for the week. Again, this is really ultimately quite sad news, but yes, this week we did lose actor and comedian Robin Williams. He was 63?
Yes, 63 years old.
And the truth of the matter is, yes, as far as we can tell, this did appear to be a suicide. I'll go ahead and rapid fire kind of the sadder stuff out of the way first.
I understand.
That apparently he had recently been suffering with bouts of depression, and even as recently as today, it would appear that he was in early onset stages of Alzheimer's and was not yet prepared. Parkinson's, and was not yet prepared to go public to the media with this information. So we don't really know whether that was a contributing factor, whether that started the depression. We don't know how long he knew he had this early onset of Parkinson's. So we don't want to jump to any conclusions there, but what we do want to do is stop for a minute and remember what we do know about him, how this relates to our community here, especially as gamers.
Well, not just as gamers, just as people who enjoy movies and fiction and things of that nature. For a lot of us here, both of us included, and I think a lot of our audience here, we've grown up always having him around for movies like Aladdin, Hook, Jumanji.
Excuse me.
And he's always been there in some way, shape, or form. You were always aware of him in some way. And those movies help shape you from a young age to be the kind of person you are now. I don't know anybody in my circle of friends who doesn't know Bangarang.
I know, yeah.
I can't begin to describe how much of an effect his work has had on just the people I know, much less myself, because those roles, he would pour into them every time, this almost unrestrained, most of the time not restrained, energy and just manic, going from one idea to the next, from voice to voice.
Like, who thinks that fast and allows your mouth to also move as quickly as you think?
Because I know I have enough of a problem where if I'm thinking fast, my mouth can't catch up. He, however, could do that for like hours, and it was a gift to him, and it was his gift to the world, really, that he was able to do this.
I can remember, actually, surely you remember a time, because we're technically too young for original airings, but Nick at Night used to air Mork and Mindy.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And so I do remember times of going, Robin Williams, hey, yeah, I know him, oh, he started here. Oh, man, it's so sharp. Then even, just from the moment the world knew who he was, so quick and so sharp. And then, as time goes on, it turns out he's doing all kinds of things that don't necessarily get reported on. Take, for example, just how good he was with our American troops overseas.
Yes.
To go over there and serve as comedic entertainment for them. And
for the most part, he didn't want that reported.
Well,
he just wanted to go over there and do that for them.
Well, he didn't go around and publicize about it. Like, it was just a thing that should be done to lift the morale of our troops and our men and women overseas. It was just the right thing to do. To tie this back, when I say our community, and this makes it relevant to our show, really, as it turns out, relatively recently, I think it was through Reddit, he was doing Ask Me Anythings, and it was in regards to gaming and such, and this is sort of how we would start to learn that, yes, in fact, his daughter Zelda is named after the Princess Zelda in the Legend of Zelda series.
They even did that commercial together for Zelda.
They did a couple series of commercials, for Legend of Zelda and the 25th anniversary. And
it turns out he was actually an avid gamer, both pen and paper, tabletop, and online as well.
Yeah, and specifically did Call of Duty, and apparently played a significant amount of World of Warcraft, which now, as it turns out, Blizzard is going to be embodying him as an NPC interactable character within the game. We don't entirely know how that's going to be implemented, but as it turns out, he perhaps he had an addictive personality, because he said that online gaming is it's very addicting sort of a thing, because you get sucked into this other world. I know what that's like myself, because on my worst days, and this was especially when I didn't have time and I didn't have to worry about paying bills and that sort of thing, I could just sit on an MMO all day long. And I don't do that anymore, but if you got that kind of time, man, to sink that much time into it, apparently he took World of Warcraft pretty seriously. People were able to pinpoint what server he was playing on. Apparently he was also pretty crazy about building his own PCs, his own gaming machines, and could even overclock them himself. So
and that's not the kind of thing you think about when you think of him. You think of the genie, you think, Peter Pan, you think of Mrs. Doubtfire. You don't think, man, that guy he can overclock a PC. You just don't think about that. But he enjoyed the same things a lot of us did, and to pretty much the same extent.
Yeah, and apparently from what we hear, he would love to kind of go into the trade chat, the big kind of what has now turned into a goof-off chat over the years in World of Warcraft. He would just go in there and just troll people mercilessly, or on days where they would allow people to go anonymous, and just, who knows, it sounds to me like this was somebody who just enjoyed all kinds of entertainment, not just limited to TV or movies or stand-up comedy. It sounds to me like he also saw value in entertainment in other places.
And as well, he also enjoyed some of the superhero fare. He had said for several years he would have loved to have been cast in one of the Batman movies. He was actually one of the people that was in the running initially for the Tim Burton Batman movie as the Joker. And then once the series got given over to Christopher Nolan, he had made several remarks about how he would have loved to have played the Riddler. And yeah, those are all things I wish I had seen.
Yeah, shoot, I highly believe he would have performed better in either one of those roles than the people they actually ended up casting. Because,
again, in addition to all of the other things we talk about, he also did quite a bit of serious work in film, things like the Dead Poets Society, Insomnia. If any of you have seen his episode on Law & Order Special Victims Unit, he could play an intensity that really could scare you, and maybe a lot of that was something on the inside of him that he was letting out to let people know. And it's not just anybody who knows how to wrangle that in and show that to people. And it's Yeah, it's unfortunate. Not to make light of the situation, of course. We ourselves had a friend under similar circumstances this year. Our friend Juwario, who also had passed on, and as such, really the thing to take away from all this is that there's always someone out there who's willing to talk to you. There's always someone out there who's willing to be there for you. And when you have those black days, they want to make you laugh. And for a lot of people, that's what he was to them. He was that person who made them laugh. Mm-hmm. He could make people laugh so easily, whether it was, sold out crowds or just people that he just met at a coffee shop. That was the kind of person he was. He was very generous. He was very selfless in a way, and just this big ball of energy that you felt better having known.
And I guess I do want to make mention finally, and perhaps then we should move on, that I know a lot of people will want to say, oh, it's just a celebrity, or you don't actually care about mental health or this, that, or the other thing, or they try and make you care about all these other big world problems, all of which are really, there's a lot of terrible things going on, the stuff going on in Gaza, in Ferguson, there's awful stuff going on all around us, and I feel like there's only so much that we, sitting where we are, can do from this distance. Of course we can increase awareness, and that's about as far as it can go, but even though this was a celebrity who you might feel is just so big and just so untouchable and so far removed from your life, clearly he had issues going on with him that people that you look at on a daily basis, people you meet on the street every single day, have these same issues. And if this gives you the opportunity to stop for a second and think, man, even somebody who seems like they have everything, they feel inside as if something is wrong or something is missing. If that makes you stop for even a moment to think about how you address other people or how you interact with somebody who might not be doing so well on the inside, that is something that you can do from where you are in your daily life, and you can help make other people's lives just a little bit better. And I don't think that there's anything to be ashamed of. Even if you had never stopped to think about somebody else's mental health before this moment, there is nothing wrong with starting right now and having been influenced by this. Don't let anybody tell you that you're a terrible person because you never cared before. There's once somebody I knew who said, "Oh, nobody cared about paralysis until Christopher Reeve,
who was actually really good friends with him."
Yeah, until Christopher Reeve, fell off his horse and was paralyzed, and he didn't care about paralyzed people either until he was paralyzed. Well, yeah, some things in your daily life you don't think about until it's staring you right in the face. But you know what? When it is staring you right in the face, learn and grow and learn how to be a better person and learn what you can do in your daily life in support of someone who needs it, or just anything that you can contribute to. There is nothing wrong with figuring out how to do that now.
And by that same token, also think about your own mental health. If you need to take a second, if you need to take a breather, if you got to talk to somebody, do that. There's always going to be somebody who wants to listen. So, that having been said, there's any number of resources that you guys can look up, any number of people you can talk to about this. Personally, I encourage you guys to go out. People have been playing his stuff nonstop on iHeartRadio, YouTube, go on Netflix, Hulu, wherever. I just ordered some stuff myself that I'd been meaning to get. But really, Robin Williams, you will be missed, and I know everybody has said it already, but I'm saying this one, Nanu Nanu.
and thank you for the time you gave us on this earth, and that's how we want to remember him.
Yes.
That having been said, life does move on, and so that is something we're glad for, that we have the ability to keep doing so.
Yes.
For that reason, we're going to go to something... I don't really know how to transition into this, because this is just plain dumb.
Actually, that's the last story.
That's the last story? You told me that was our middle story.
No, that's the middle story.
Alright. So this isn't dumb at all. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is actually pretty cool, and not everybody saw this coming, by which I mean no one saw this coming. Okay, so, just the other day at this Gamescom press conference that Sony was holding, they made people aware that on the PlayStation store, there was a playable demo for people called PT that they were free to go ahead and download. And
a playable teaser, yeah.
Yeah. Which is basically what the PT stands for.
Yeah.
And you were allowed to go ahead and play this thing through and, see what you liked about it. And people had thought, oh, well, what is this? Is this a new title that we're looking at? A new horror title? Because this looks pretty scary and intense. And admittedly, most people are getting through it in about, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the end of this thing, and what you end up finding out is, you're this male character, you're walking around, you finally get outside this building you're in, this house, and then once you make it out onto the street, the camera widens out, and then you realize who you're looking at here is Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead, Daryl.
Amazingly mo-capped face.
Yeah, it looks
freaking
the
great.
spitting image of him. And then, of course, you're also complimented with not just his face, but two names pop up. First, Hideo Kojima, to which people are like, what?
Oh, a new Hideo Kojima game. Like, alright, okay, everybody loves Hideo Kojima.
And then you combine that, Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. Oh! Yeah, Hideo Kojima directing Norman Reedus, alright. And then the third name, Guillermo del Toro, and you're like, what? They're all working together? What the hell could they possibly be working on?
And then the title fades in.
You hear the music. Silent Hills. And then you're like, what?
And I was like, yo!
And I was like, don't do it! Don't go towards the siren!
But it did kind of really slowly blow your mind. Like, and yeah, you see that it's built on the Fox engine, which is really interesting because as it turns out, you can download this playable demo, and they had to basically turn down how good the demo looked because it would have given away that it was on the Fox engine. So this game is going to look so much freaking better than that playable
What reason
demo.
did they have for doing that?
Because you would have known that it was going to look
exactly, that's the point. They were trying to fool people with this. So, in actuality, this answers the question, turned down for what? Yeah, I know that looking...
I really want to cancel the rest of the show just because
you have
said
a gun.
That.
You can feel better about that.
Okay, I'm just going to cock that like that, and then just go...
Ah! Dang. That stings. But, alright, that's my one bad joke for the evening. Point being, though, yes, if people had seen what they have in store in this demo, people would have figured it out, and that would have spoiled the surprise. Well, now we're getting a little bit more information about what this project is going to entail, and apparently they've got some pretty high standards for what this game is going to give you.
Well, yeah, first Kojima was like, we want to scare the piss out of you, so have a change of pants. Then, later on, they updated that information, and Kojima now wants to make that even worse. I'm going to just kind of read off the entirety of these quotes. One thing you have to keep in mind is that if a game is too scary, people just won't play it. If it gets too scary, you'll just keep your eyes shut, and soon it'll be over. But if it's a game, people will stop, so that's why there's a limit on how scary you can make a game. But in this case, we're totally ignoring that, and you know what? If you don't want to keep on playing through the game, so be it. We don't care. That's the game we're aiming for. And he says something to the effect of...
We've changed our minds and
now we're aiming for a game that will make you shit your pants.
Like, understand, that is the official release from Kojima and Del Toro on this. They want you to have an extra pair of pants ready for when you play this game. And for horror game fans, they are in ecstasy over this claim that you will need an extra pair of pants.
Oh, I can't remember a time. It's been a long time since I've seen somebody get legit scared over a game. I remember several years ago, one of the Fatal Frames, I knew somebody who was like, nope, I can't play it, this hit's too close to home for me, and he had to return it the next day.
Yeah.
And that was the most scared I'd ever seen anybody at a game. So this is going to have to top, like, returning the game the next day.
So
scary.
Let's think about this, tactically for a second. Just knowing the three things that really have the most focus on here, because yes, this is great that we've got Daryl there fighting off potentially, nurses and whatnot. That's great. No, what we want to focus on here is the three things: Hideo Kojima, Guillermo del Toro, and the fact that this is a Silent Hill game. So what do each bring to the table? Well, one, Hideo Kojima. He's always had this very cinematic style to the games that he's created.
Absolutely.
Over the years.
I've always wanted to play Police Knots. And there is a fan translation of that out there, and they had always planned on there being a legit English translation, and then that never ended up happening. But fans did it. I gotta get me a hold of that fan translation. The cinema, the way Kojima approaches video games as though it's cinema is freaking amazing.
I mean, that much can be seen, the most recent Metal Gear Solid. Say what you will about how long you can actually play Ground Zeroes, but
I spent $50 on a demo. Yeah, that's what we hear the most. So.
But it was a gorgeous demo.
Well,
Nobody argues over
demo.
that. And as a whole, the Metal Gear franchise has done fairly well for itself.
Oh, more
these
than
games,
fairly well, yeah.
To put it lightly. And these games have been managing to get put out year after year, because there's something there that Kojima works on that people come back for. Now that's that portion of it. Then we factor in that we've got Guillermo del Toro working on this, who is an avid geek, who is an avid horror fan. The man working on a horror movie right now, Crimson Peak, who
that
gave
TV
us
series he's got going on
The
right
Strain,
now. The Strain.
Working on Pacific Rim 2 after that, gave us the cinematic version of Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth. What more could you ask for somebody working on a horror game?
If you're asking for, like, new psychological thriller monsters, he can do it. You look at Pan's Labyrinth and you know he can freaking do it.
It's like, okay, like, I'm thinking here, not to tie it back, but just thinking here, somebody used all three of their genie wishes on this game. Like, I want a new Silent Hill game, and I want Hideo Kojima working on it, and I want Guillermo del Toro working on it. And then your wish is granted. And there it is.
And then he just sort of gave you Remus as an extra
Norman
bonus.
Reedus on there.
Or Reedus, yeah.
And yeah, of course, you see how he did the vampires in Blade 2, probably the better of the Blades, although the first one's probably
it's necessary.
Neck and neck.
It's necessary.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Yeah, but you look at it there, and then you look at that. They could have made any sort of game, the two of them together. They could have potentially launched a whole new horror franchise, if they so chose. But no, what they're doing is they're going to an already established
franchise
benchmark,
yeah.
And that is Silent Hill. Now, you factor in the fact that these two are working on a Silent Hill game, and you're probably already starting to pee yourself just a little bit, just imagining what they have in store here.
Well, yeah, because now that gives the opportunity to go back, like, you can kind of look at perhaps the last entry or so in the series and go, that could have been better. This is more like, no, we're going to bring it back. We're going to get it back for ourselves. This is going to be ours again.
Yeah.
I see a lot of potential, and I really want to know just how good this is going to look if this image that you're looking at right now isn't even as good as it freaking gets.
Right.
So
now, as far as we know, this will be available on the PS4 once it actually comes out. We will definitely give you guys more information once we get a longer trailer, I guess, in the coming months. But like, I'm personally not a horror game fan. I'm not big into this or Fatal Frame or Slender, any of those sort of games. Just based off credits alone, I want this game now.
It's coming. It's coming.
All right, well, hurry up and get here. So yes, that's Silent Hills. Be looking forward to that.
All right, so final story is pretty... this'll irritate you. This'll irritate you significantly. Well, so we're looking at Mine-O-Rama, which was supposed to take place in New York City, what, this weekend?
No, actually last month.
Or last month, excuse me.
This convention was another not quite official fan-organized convention celebrating, the game Minecraft. And this was to take place on the 11th through the 13th of July, basically last month. What happened was that the organizers of this event didn't provide anything, because as information is provided here, we found out that the convention was postponed, and then postponed again, and then for some reason their web presence completely disappeared. No website, no Twitter account, no nothing. And now we're wondering...
Which is really shady, as some of these news articles are suggesting. They raised over $500,000 because the tickets for this event were $150 a pop.
Well, for one, that's crazy for a first-year convention. Like, you don't charge $150 for a weekend. Like, that's Dragon Con prices.
I don't know, because the official Minecraft Con, and I don't know how many years they've done it, or if they've only done it 1 year, it was an expensive friggin' event, and it was only for 2 days.
But that's official,
But
though.
Yeah, you're right, that's official. Like, take, for example, friggin' BlizzCon is a hella expensive event to go to, because it's officially run by the official producers. It's run by Blizzard. That having been said, so they raised over $500,000. Well, apparently, for as long as their Twitter account, their Mine-O-Rama Twitter account was open, they stated that their financing fell through and that they needed $750,000. Well, were they not concerned about that until the week of the event? That they didn't have that much money? Like, that's really shocking to me.
And then, if that wasn't enough to get you a little worried about this, their Twitter posted the phrase, and I can't believe they actually said this, in all caps, "Please note, we are not a scam." Like, usually that's one of those things that, if you're having to tell me that, that's going to make me second-guess you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having to warn me before you've explained yourself fully that you're not a scam.
So, yeah, they deleted their Twitter account at Mine-O-Rama. However, it is active now, but it's not them.
Right.
It's some other dude who's made it a joke account. And so they've also... Their Facebook page is still active, but it hasn't been updated since July 8th. You've got people there complaining, for example... So, you postpone this the same exact week of the convention. Where is the logic? You going to pay for my hotel and travel expenses to go back to New York City? How about people who traveled from across the seas? Also, what about our hotel and bus tickets we already bought and were charged for? Are you going to give me that money back? Like, people were traveling far distances to get to this thing, and it's just gone. You can't reach the guy. Kotaku called a representative to ask him questions, and then he was like, no comment, and he hung up on him.
Yep.
And that was it.
And the sad thing about this is that, of course, I don't think we really talked about it before, but this brings up the already bad taste in our mouths from last month with the disaster that was DashCon.
Mm-hmm.
And by this point, most of you know the debacle that was everything that went on at DashCon, the ball pit, we all heard it.
Well, at least with Mine-O-Rama, they had a focused idea. But with DashCon, their focused idea was Tumblr. How do you focus in on a topic like Tumblr when Tumblr is a blog and you can put anything on a blog?
Filters.
Okay, so you're saying have a con themed by filters? Like, I'm almost starting to plan a better DashCon than DashCon did. Like, here, let's go to the whatever room that's filtered by X thing over
whatever
here.
fandom you like.
Yeah, but even then, it's like you can't separate that. Well, there's too much to separate. Not to mention it was apparently run by people who had never run a convention before, had never attended a convention before, and many people were even underage who were trying to organize it.
Yes.
So they didn't have a clue to begin with.
Right.
Never mind the fact that later on, during the middle of the Saturday, I believe, of the con, they needed to raise very quickly $17,000 through very generous fan donations. Now, I will say that I actually once participated in an event that needed almost that exact same thing to happen.
Which convention was this again?
That was AtsuiCon in 2007. Now, at that time, yeah, they were about to shut down the con in the middle of Saturday. I think they only needed a couple thousand. It most certainly was not $17,000, but yeah, they actually did take us all into the main ballroom. Every single guest was or attendee was required to go into the main ballroom so that they could make this announcement and so that they could very quickly see if people would just donate whatever it was that they had to keep it going until Sunday. And people did it, and people were cheering, and at the time it felt very like, yeah, we're fans, and we did it, and we made it happen.
Which is the same thing that happened at DashCon, but the thing about it is there's still people who managed to lose money on this, and on the small scale, I'll say, with of course DashCon, there was the whole debacle with the guests from Welcome to Night Vale, who were set to perform there at DashCon, and then of course news came around to them that they weren't going to be paid for their performance, and as such they left with an hour to their performance, and people had paid a separate ticket price to be there to watch them, and then end up getting nothing.
Not to mention they can't refund those tickets. Their lawyer said you're not going to be refunding those tickets to see Welcome to Night Vale.
And that's the low end of, oh, I'm not getting my money back. Here, we're talking about several people at $150 a pop who are not getting their money back. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that's currently going on with crowdsourcing and conventions and things like that. When those two meet, is that now we're having to worry about people being on the up and up with the product that they're trying to put out there, especially as far as conventions are concerned.
Yeah, this is actually really, really painful to listen to, because I feel like crowdsourcing can be very successful and can really help very legitimate people who really want to make a good thing or a good product happen. And it's served to really do that. For example, solar roadways. Totally
right, exactly.
in agreement, in full belief of solar roadways. Really successful things have gotten off the ground. Mighty Number 9 got backed, and it's doing so much better than they could have possibly imagined. But these are examples of things that have gone through and have been successful, whereas there's the Yogscast adventure game that was supposed to be built, where the guys that they hired to make the game just up and left with most of the money, and people for the most part are not getting what they paid for, although they're getting codes for other similar games, so good for them for providing something else.
Right.
But these people aren't getting anything, and who knows if they will ever get an answer. And this doesn't look good on crowdfunding, this doesn't look good on startup conventions, when there could be some really creative ideas for brand new startup conventions, and it's tainting what could be. And
right.
It would make me second guess whether or not I would back a startup. It
right.
really does. It's hard to tell. Well, who do you help? How do you know what to trust anymore?
And that's the unfortunate reality of the situation, is that now anybody else who, with a better head on their shoulders, I should say, wants to go ahead and try and get something off the ground, this makes it that much harder for them to do so, because now we're dealing with these people who potentially might have scammed some people out of, collectively out of over $500,000. That's not any number to scoff at.
No, not at all.
By any means. And
typically, if you have to make a convention happen, you have to sell a certain number of room blocks.
Right.
And how many people registered for this event?
3,600.
Well, surely, perhaps around half, at least maybe a third of those people were having to get hotel rooms. Like, you would think that that's how they would finance their event, is by selling out a certain number of hotel rooms. It just doesn't seem right.
Now, see, this might just be me and my ignorance. What would they have done there? Just, like, basically a giant LAN party?
Well, you could have LAN rooms. I would say go and look up what their event schedule is going to be, except all of their internet presence completely up and disappeared. You could have LAN parties. You could have, of course, cosplay. You can have special guests. My cousin, for example, built an amazing, it's been passed around quite a bit, built an amazing Castlevania adventure within the world of Minecraft, and perhaps I'll link you guys to that a little bit later. And you could have, special builder guests. You could maybe reach out to Notch and the rest
I'm trying
of his
to figure
team,
out the reason
Mojang.
The reason I ask is I'm trying to figure out where that money could have possibly gone, if not into the organizer's pocket. Mm-hmm. Because, yes, you could pay for guests, you could pay for programming, of course you have to pay your hotel expenses, but at the end of the day, the unfortunate thing that we have to report here is that people are out, their time, their money, and they've got nothing to show for it. And basically, the best we can tell you guys right now is just buyer beware. When you're looking to give to something, whether it be a crowdsourced convention, game, movie, what have you, try and do as much research as you possibly can.
Now, granted, this wasn't crowdfunded, right? Or was it? This was, however, just startup. It was a first-year event. Well, first-year events, again, are weak, and they have to prove themselves. I would say if you're spending $150 on an unofficial event that is startup, that's also something that, unless you're like already there within the city and you feel like you can afford to take that risk, then just don't. Right. Just wait for it to go a year or two.
Right, because you kind of need these things to prove themselves a little bit, and yeah, there's kind of that catch-22 there of, well, if if we don't support this thing, it might not take off. Well, yeah, but you kind of have to give a little bit of pause there to make sure that what you're giving to is actually what you're really in the market for.
Mm-hmm. So, we do really need to wrap up because we're right at the end of our hour. If you guys want to keep hanging around with us, we'll be here after the show to do more Q&A stuff. If you're a Patreon, this will go up just about immediately afterward, and you guys will be able to watch it before the rest of YouTube does. And if you're at YouTube, we would sure love for you guys to come down here on Thursday nights at 9 p.m.
Why are you waiting?
So
come on,
come
really.
down to hitbox.tv/MarsGirl, and we'll hang out with you, and we'll talk to you after the show is over, which is what we're about to do right now.
Right, but in the meantime, what you can always do is hit us up on Twitter, talk to us there. I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I'm at MarsGirl.
And that having been said, this has been this week's episode of Beyond the Black Rims. We will see you guys next week.
Night.